Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Knight-DiGangi, and I am the Program Officer for the Valley Community Foundation. In this morning's webinar, we're talking about all of the grant opportunities that we have available for Valley participants. As you can see, the purpose of our grant program is to fulfill the first part of our mission statement, to make the Valley a better place to live and work, both now and in the future. We do this by supporting the nonprofits that directly and indirectly affect the quality of life for people in the Valley. And we do it in partnership with our partners in philanthropy, the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. There are several steps that you would need to do in order to apply for a grant, but we're going to walk you through the most important ones at this point in time. The very first point is to do your research. There's lots of information out there that's available to you as you decide whether or not you want to apply for a grant. You need to be thinking about what kinds of things that are available for you to determine whether or not there is a need for the project, what kind of data there is to support the need, and also what kind of grant opportunity is best for you. We're going to be talking about those in just a couple of minutes. The next thing to do is to identify collaborators and partners. So as far as what other identifiers, what other partners may be out there for you, they can be anybody from another group, another individual, another agency, people or organizations that you feel would best benefit your particular organization, your particular project, and strengthen your particular grant application. Once you've done that, then you obviously focus on what your program or your project is going to look like. Think about what, again, the need is out in the community, what kinds of opportunities exist, what would best serve both the folks that you're trying to work with, as well as continue to strengthen the work that you do as an organization. We have what is called a logic model available, and it is part of not any of the applications except for the responsive grant application. And it is used for project support in the responsive grant application process. We have included it in this slide this morning because it is a wonderful way for you to start formulating how you are going to structure your grant. It is a great way to succinctly answer the questions that you will be thinking about as you are working through your idea. What your goals are, what your assumptions are about the kinds of work that you're doing, who you're going to be working with. It is being read from up and down, not left to right. And we want you to be thinking about 3 to 5 measurable goals that you would be working on. The definitions for the logic model are on our website, and there will be a workshop that we have a slide about in just a couple of minutes that we'll be talking about. That is going to be focusing specifically on the logic model. So I just want to make you aware that it is available. It is not required for the grants that we're going to be talking about that are Valley specific, but it is going to be part of the responsive grant process that is available and that we'll be talking about in just a little bit. The competitive grant opportunities that I'm going to review with you, as you see, we just talked about responsive grants, are the first 3 on this particular slide: sponsorships, community grants, and needs and opportunities. I'm going to go into more depth for each one of these in just a minute, but suffice it to say that sponsorships and needs and opportunities are ongoing. There is no particular deadline for either one of those. Sponsorships focus on events in the Valley, things that are one-time happenings that will focus on, hopefully, a particular need or bring attention to some work that your organization is doing and that you need support for. Needs and opportunities are more about the innovative programs and emergency needs that are ongoing in the Valley. Community grants are specifically those that are going to be ones that are going to target a specific project or opportunity that you will be working on as far as maybe a neighborhood project. That has a deadline of March 7th of 2019, which we're in, as you know, by noon. So we would expect that if you have any questions specifically about the community grants, that you will contact us, obviously, sooner rather than later, and that's part of the reason why we're talking about this. One last thing that I want to share about the responsive grants, as you can see on the bottom, is that it's flexible funding, and that is something that we do in partnership specifically with the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. There is one door that everybody comes in to access responsive grants. And all of the applications that I've just talked about are all online. As you see, again, the deadline for responsive grants is March 28th. Let's talk about sponsorships. As I said, that they are for events only. So if you're having a gala or a road race or some kind of very special event to celebrate perhaps volunteers in your organization, that's what our sponsorship opportunities are for. It is, as I said before, a year-round process with no deadline. We require that you submit an application to us 60 days prior to your event. That allows us the time to ask any questions or gather any additional information so that we can be able to act on your application before your event happens. There is a $2,500 maximum for a sponsorship. That does not mean that you have to come in for $2,500 for the sponsorship of one particular event. If you have several events that are ongoing throughout the year that you would like to be able to have us consider, that is perfectly fine. Sometimes people break that up. They come in for $1,000 for one particular event. They may come in for $500 for another. It can be broken up that way, but the maximum is $2,500. The community grant process, as I said, is right now that we are, the application is up on the website, and you can see that for this grant, it is also up to $2,500. It is for folks that are either have a checking account or a 501c3 nonprofit status. They do not have to have 501c3 nonprofit status. The main thing is that you do have a checking account with a verified financial institution that can allow you to be able to accept the funding if you are awarded the grant. Volunteer or nonprofit in nature. Let me talk about that. Basically, you're looking at people that have either 2 or full-time folks or 4 part-time staff. So it's either the equivalent of 2 or full-time folks or part-time folks. Or it is totally a volunteer organization. You don't have to have any staff, and that's perfectly okay. They're basically community groups that are out there doing wonderful work in the community with relatively not a lot of resources and could really use a wonderful infusion of funding support of $2,500 or less to perhaps beautify a neighborhood or work on any particular project, perhaps with the elderly or with animals or with youth, anything that is out there that is benefiting the Valley community. And I just want to make sure that, and we have the slides available at the end of this presentation, the Valley is defined as those communities comprised of Ansonia, Derby, Oxford, Seymour, and Shelton. The community grants process is reviewed by a community grants reviewer team that, again, is going to be having people that can know what the needs are out in the Valley. They're looking at all of the applications that are coming in. They start reviewing them from the end of March. That review process goes until the beginning of May, and then the decisions are made in May. So it is a very quick turnaround time. Our Needs and Opportunities grants do exactly what that big bubble in the middle of the slide say. They address innovative programs and emergency needs here in the Valley community. And they're unique needs and opportunities. They're things that may or may not necessarily, they're looking at kinds of things that are trying to address a specific focus area, if it's a project, or let's say your furnace breaks down or your air conditioning breaks down, and that will happen most likely, obviously, in the summer when you turn it back on. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking at being able to fund as part of this particular program. As you can see, there's $250 to $10,000. $10,000 is our limit. I want to share with you that you do not have to ask for $9,999 for each of these grants. When you're structuring your budget, please ask for exactly the kind of money and the budget that you are looking for. As you can also see, we're expecting 1 grant per nonprofit per year. As I shared with you before, these are applications that are accepted year-round, so there is no deadline for these grants. There is about $100,000 available until December 31st, but as you can tell, that would go very quickly if everybody came in for a $10,000 grant opportunity. So keep that in the back of your mind. And this particular grant application, you will either need to be a 501c3 organization or have a 501c3 organization be your fiscal sponsor. The one very important part about both this application and the community grants application is the more that you can demonstrate the need for these for the grants in the community, backed up by data, to show that need, the stronger your application is going to be. The one other thing that I would like to share with you is it's always great for someone that is not associated with your particular organization or project to read your grant application, because there are going to be people out there, as I mentioned with the community reviewers, that will be reading those and may not be as familiar with the terms and the kinds of specific applications that are to your particular organization. So if you have some terms that you use, make sure that you spell them out and make sure that you are using as much data as possible to support the need for the project. As I talked about before, the technical assistance for our grant opportunities for the logic model is going to be held on February 26th from 9 to 10:30. To register for that workshop, please visit that link, the cfgnh.org/workshops. Kara Strawn is available and is willing to help answer any questions, and she will be presenting this workshop to get people to understand exactly how to construct a logic model, and also to walk you through the kinds of thought processes that you will do as far as outcome measures go. We have many resources available from both the Valley Community Foundation and our partners in philanthropy. All of the folks that are listed here on this page would be more than happy to help you. Sarah Fabish is our Vice President for Grant Making. Denise Canning can answer any questions about any kind of technical support that you need for your application if you're having some challenges accessing the application. Jackie Downing is wonderful, again, with general questions and can obviously also answer some budget questions. And I am your go-to person for anything specific about the Valley, anything that you have a question about as far as the needs and opportunities go, the community grants go. We just talked about Kara and the logic model. Stephanie Chung is wonderful for the Give Greater profile. If you are interested in participating in the responsive grant process, which we'll be talking about in a separate webinar in just a little bit, Stephanie is really your go-to person for answering questions of how to fill out that profile. We are now at a point for questions that we don't seem to have any from anybody out there. So I think I'm just going to take just a couple more minutes of time because we do have the handouts available for this particular website. They are able to download if you need to be able to do that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we will have this recorded, so if there's anything that you have a question about afterwards and you think, wow, I should have asked that during the webinar, feel free to contact me and I'd be more than happy to answer that for you. The one piece that I want to share with you that I did not, and I think it's really important, is that one of the mantras that we have both for the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven and for the Valley Community Foundation is that no is not no forever. We are absolutely looking to help you be successful. That is part of our job as community foundations, and it is something that we really strive to make sure that you have the tools necessary to be a successful grant application, a grant applicant with us and fill out a successful grant application. So if there's something that you're thinking about that you want to run by us, feel free to do so. That's what we're here for. We're that resource for you to be able to bounce ideas off of and to be able to say, hey, is this something that you might be thinking about, and is there a way to be able to structure this grant so that we can be successful. So the one other thing that I am now seeing as a question is, can an agency apply for grants from both foundations since it operates in both geographic areas? So let me answer the question that's up. If you are submitting a responsive grant application to us, which is the project support, capacity building and support, general operating support, which we'll be talking about, as I said, in the next webinar. That application that will come in the door, and if you serve both of our regions, you can easily, what will happen is it's one door, and then we review it on our side to determine how much of a percentage you serve for Valley towns and how much you serve for Greater New Haven towns. So that you just come in the door, you tell us who you're serving, and then we determine that on your behalf. As far as project support for the Needs and Opportunities grant or a sponsorship grant, again, sometimes we do joint needs and opportunities depending on what is served and how the project straddles both of those areas, both the Community Foundation's 20-town area, and as you know, we are part of that 20-town area. So you would need to explain how many residents or what the population would be for each of those. You could apply and explain that to us, right, in the application, and we would consider it. Rarely do we sponsor the same event, so for sponsorships, we would not do that. And for community grants, that is specifically a Valley process that is not in conjunction with New Haven. I hope that answered that question for that person. Okay. And anything else out there? I think we're good. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out to listen to me and this webinar this morning. If you have any additional questions or things, as I said, that come up, please do not hesitate to contact me either via email or by phone. And we strongly encourage you to stay on the webinar for the other responsive grant webinar sections that we will be working on, and they will begin in the next several minutes, starting with project support. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful day.